The Minister of Finance, Dennis Vandi, has presented a 9.94 trillion euros budget for running the state in 2022. Parliament has debated the budget. The minister stated that the focus of the budget would be to consolidate and complete all ongoing priority projects, especially those that have to do with roads, bridges, hospitals, water, energy, and human capital development programs in education and health. But MDAs still are complaining about receiving their budgetary allocations for 2021, with the Ministry of Finance saying they've given about 70% of the 2021 budget to MDAs. Tonight, we will look at the 2022 budget and the promises made in the 2021 budget. My name is Samuel Wise-Bangura, and this is AYV on Sunday. All right, good evening and welcome to AYV on Sunday on Channel 33 on TV and on Radio FM 101.7. Today we're talking about the 2022 budget and the promises made in the 2021 budget. This evening I have with me the Honorable Indolo Gevao from the Salian People's Party in Parliament. Good evening and welcome to the show, Honorable.
Thank you, Samuel. Good evening, viewers.
All right, I have Honorable Sir Charles from the Coalition for Change in Parliament. Honorable, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight.
All right, we look forward to Honorable Abdul Kabo joining the conversation. But to you watching or listening, remember you can always contribute to the program by sending your comments or asking questions on the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page and be part of the conversation. I'm going to start off with you, Honorable Sir Charles, for obvious reasons. Give us a brief overview of the 9.94 trillion budget presented in Parliament by the Minister of Finance for running the state in the fiscal year of 2022.
Thank you very much. The Finance Act, you have to, in discussing the budget, normally I always give people a preview of the Finance Act,
right?
Because the Finance Act itself that is the backbone of the budget. The budget is not to say like we have a standing fund already from which we can just take and utilize. No, for the budget to be a realistic one, it has to be in tandem with that of the Finance Act, because at the end of the day, it is the Finance Act that talks about how more resources are going to be mobilized to foot in the budget of the state.
Right.
You know, yes, this is the week. We have started it since last week when we looked at the Finance Act. Controversial issues were there, which regards revenue mobilizations and measures intended to be undertaken by the government. And now we have the budget in front of us that's the title as the Building Resilience for Inclusive Green Scenery, Green Recovery. You know, this is the document that has been presented to us, and as Parliament, we are currently looking at it. The debate has commenced 2 days ago, and today the debate will wrap up. And then,
can I quickly forgive me? Let me take you back. You spoke about the Finance Act that talks about how government aims to generate revenue, because the budget itself it's perhaps a document that speaks to how they plan to spend the money that will be generated through the Finance Act. There were, like you mentioned, there were issues of taxation, exemptions, waivers that were a bit, controversial. Could you please just speak a little to the Finance Act that you debated and look at those gray areas of concern?
Yes, there was an area that has to do with procurement. You remember we have the 2016 Procurement Act, which is there, and that act itself has a lot of safeguards which regards security matters, but we saw the current minister in his presentation of the finance bill to Parliament, wherein it took over 11 different acts to be amended by the Finance Act 2022.
Right.
Right. And one key area has to do with security matters, the procurement of, weaponry and what have you. But like, they insisted that NPPA should not have any knowledge about whatever procurement the military will want to undertake. So this was a concern. We said the act itself as it was, there was nothing wrong with it. It should remain as it was. And that in terms of decision that has to do with the procurement of arms and ammunition, it has to be something that is purely in the hands of the military, the Defense Council. It's not something that has to do with the procurement, the NPPA, right? But the only thing is for transparency. At the end of the day, we will not want this government to tell us tomorrow that, hey, we utilize 60, 70, $100 million to procure arms and ammunition, and NPPA do not have any information about that. These were the concerns, right? And now there was also something that has to do with the award of contracts. This time around, we have seen that the Ministry of Finance is going to be play an integral role in the award of contracts, right? And in that, it has its positive aspect and its negative aspect as well. You know,
what could be the possible negative effect of the involvement of the Ministry of Finance?
The involvement of the Ministry of Finance could have a negative effect in that we already know that the minister, as a political appointee, though he's a public servant, right? Definitely, right? Some political interest is going to be played there at the end of the day. However, one good thing about it that I am proud of was the fact that their involvement in the award of contract is for them to give advice as to the standpoint of the government. As a government, where are we? We should not just give contract to people to undertake activities that we do not have the required resources to fund. So this was a concern, right? And I'm happy for that.
Right.
That this time around, if I'm given a contract, for instance, to construct the Lunge Bridge, right, I'm sure that the government is in place to give the money for me to undertake the activity.
Let me ask Honorable Indologeva on the issue of the Finance Act 2022. Honorable Sir Charles has highlighted a few areas of concern. One has to do with the procurement of arms and ammunition by the National Public Procurement Authority. And for him, he's a bit concerned because that has to do with the security of the state while leaving it in the hands of... and there are also other areas where, I mean, taxes are being raised. Tax exemptions have also been given to certain areas. If you're, for example, importing health-related things, election materials, these are all things that, I mean, will be exempted. Now, so what are your submissions with regard to the concerns Honorable Sir Charles has raised?
Like you rightly mentioned, the Finance Act is the bedrock for the government to raise funds for every financial year. It informs the member of public the taxes and waivers that government intend to impose or to remove from business people. Yes, I agree. Every year there are areas where government will decide to increase taxes for them to be able to maximize funds for the running of the state. There are other areas, let's say, for basic necessities like oil manufacturing, onion manufacturing, or anything that has to do with food stuff. Government might tend to waive taxes for those people that will be embarking on the production of those type of products. So I consider the move of government to say remove taxes or to waive taxes from those industries involved in like foodstuff manufacturing and those that will be importing very sensitive equipment, let's say election materials.
Yeah.
It is government and donor partners that will be funding NEC. So if you say again, NEC has to come and pay taxes, where are you expecting them to pay to get the monies from? You know, with regards to the procurement of arms and ammunition, because it is so that sensitive, it has to do with state security. I think that's all the reason why government decided to leave it in the enclosed hand of the Defense Council, not in the hands of NPPA. I mean, the state does everything in the good interest of the people of Sierra Leone.
Right.
If the public gets to know that, oh, the government intends bringing rocket grenades, they start asking, why are they buying rocket grenades? Are we going to war? These are very sensitive informations, and irrespective of the fact that it has to do with procurement, but because of they want to maintain the sensitive nature of it, I'm sure that's why they said it should not be in the hands of the National Procurement Authority. It should entirely be in the hands of the Defense Council. So I honestly see nothing wrong in what government has done in respect of that area. I think they are doing everything in the good interest of the public. And like you rightly said, the caption of the budget itself that reads, building resilience for the inclusive green recovery, it tells you we have to build resilience. I mean, these are not normal times. This is not how we expect our economy. Our economy is battered, it's shattered as a result of the COVID-19. The shock has been so very heavy. So we have to build resilience so that we can recover, you know, recover the already damaged economy as a result of the shock that we are not expecting. And it is not a one-week shock. It's not a one-year shock. It's a continuous shock. We don't know when the economic ramification on our economy will end. We don't know when this COVID will definitely be declared to have come to an end and get all facets, economic facets, to resume back activities.
Okay.
So we always have to build strong resilience so that we continue surviving and we try to recover that is already lost.
Okay. Let me welcome Honorable Abdul Kabo from the All People's Congress Party. Good evening and welcome to the show, Honorable. Well, so we're discussing the 2022 budget, but we go back just a little to the Finance Act 2022 because it speaks to how government, plans to generate resources for the running of the state. What are your concerns with regards to the 2022 Finance Act, if there are any?
Well, of course, one thing we have noticed over the years is that the Finance Act is used to amend other acts so that they prevent accountability.
Right.
Yeah. Now the defense procurement of, in fact, in 2020, the defense spent well over 50 billion of their allocation. And by then, they were going through procurement. Now that they are not going through procurement, I am sure that they will spend far more than what they have spent already.
With no account?
Without account, without being accountable, you see. So to us, you know, the act already, the NPP Act already makes way, you know, for sensitive security materials that when they want to purchase, it makes way for them.
Right.
It makes way, you understand? But to say that they should circumvent the NPP to purchase them, then I'm afraid for the revenue of this nation. I told you they spent 50 billion more than what was allocated to them, just in procurement. Are we in war? What are we procuring? So to me, it is an attempt to circumvent being monitored. It is an attempt to circumvent being very transparent. And quite apart from the defense, in the Finance Act, they also amended it to create an emergency, a special emergency fund for disaster. And that fund is to be managed, it's to be created and managed, not by the National Disaster Agency, but by the Ministry of Finance. Also, they amended the National Disaster Agency Act, which to me should not be done. When we want to amend, let us don't use the Finance Act to be taking powers from the institutions that are established by Parliament. Is
this not a way of the Ministry of Finance saying, okay, because we are disbursing the money, we have to be in charge. Should you need this money, we'll give it to you. If you don't need it, it stays with us because we're in charge.
The mere fact that these institutions were created by law and by parliament, it shows that they have the competence. We should trust them. You know, that is why Barack Obama said we should be strong institutions instead of strong men. We should trust them to be able to run the affairs. And if there is disaster, you have to go through the bureaucracy of going through the Ministry of Finance.
To respond.
And they are managing the fund. Why should they manage a disaster fund when they are not handling disaster? So these are some, the Ministry of Finance is using the Finance Act to capacitate themselves and reduce the powers of other agencies that were created by Parliament. So to me, the Finance Act is being abused. It's being used to reduce the powers of other agencies that were created by government to capacitate the Ministry of Finance.
And what does that present to the to the states, and especially the effective functioning of those institutions?
It shows that the Ministry of Finance is killing those institutions. The Ministry of Finance is overcapacitating themselves. They already have a lot on their plates. You all know the finances of this country are not well managed. They have to deal with that. So let them leave other institutions to do what they were created to do by Parliament. You understand? But reducing the powers of those institutions is alarming for the states. And let me tell you, even with the Ministry of Finance, we have problems with them. They are spending more than what is allocated to them. They have done that since this government came. They have been spending what was, let me tell you now, we have in the budget what we refer to as contingency fund and what we refer to as unallocated expenditure. In fact, subsection 1 of section 36 of the PFM Act is very instructing that the contingency fund must not exceed 2% of the local revenue. And in 2020, it was calculated to be 1.879 billion. 1.879 billion is the 2% of the revenue. That is what Ministry of Finance was supposed to spend under the contingency fund. But let me shock you, they spent 17.624 billion, which is not 2% as proposed by the PFM Act, which is 19%. So to us, it is an abuse of the PFM Act. It's an abuse. They did the same thing in 2021. They were to spend 2%, which was 4.282 billion. But they spent 26.75 billion, which was 17%, which was 14%. So the Ministry of Finance is spending more than what is allocated to them, and they are abusing the very laws that were created by Parliament.
And and that brings to mind, before we delve into the 2022, the budget itself, that brings to mind the Ministry of Finance is saying for 2021 alone, they were able to, they've been able so far to disburse about 70% of the budget to MDAs because of the crisis. They've not been, we're in a very much challenging situation with our economy. But with those expenditure, going above what is required for by law, do you think that is legitimate before we go into the things promised in the 2021 budget? And
Samuel, I would say this, yeah? Our law for this nation should surpass our law for our political parties, yeah? The Ministry of Finance made no allocation to some agencies.
Right.
Not a single allocation to some agencies. Whilst they themselves appropriated more than what was legitimately allocated to them. So to me, it is an abuse of the Constitution, it's an abuse of the PFM Act. Why do you capacitate yourself and deprive other agencies? You go to talk to most of the ministries, departments, and agencies, ask them for their allocations. You will notice that not even half of their allocations were given to them. How will they perform? How will they deliver? How will they be able to do what has been planned? They are being strangulated. Talk to them. They will tell you that even their allocation, they struggle to get their allocation, whilst the Ministry of Finance is just paying debt. So repetitiously paying debt.
All right, let me bring in Honorable Sir Charles. Going to the 2021 budget, there were promises, education-wise, establishment of certain facilities at ward, community level, and all of that. If you are to assess the level of achievement with the 2021 budget, where would you put it with the promises that were made?
To me, I always say this, that being an opposition doesn't mean we are opposition to development or we are opposition to progress, right? We are opposition to those things that we think are not working right in the interest of Sierra Leoneans. That is our position. The SLPP will not tell you, they will not dare enough to tell the people of Sierra Leone that they have failed in areas that they have failed. They will only trumpet those areas that they are recording some minimal successes. Right? And we say this, that when you come with a budget, as the one that has been presented to us a few days ago, right? We are looking at this budget in line with the previous budget that was presented on the issues, the deliverables, things that you were able to achieve and things that you did not achieve. Shortly, by next week, we'll be going into appropriation committee on supplies, where we'll take this budget page by page, right, word by word, figure by figure, and analyze it in line with what was already disbursed to these various MDAs for the year ending 2021, right? So, as you hear my colleague was saying, nobody will challenge that a lot of MDAs are there. They will tell them that 10 billion, for instance, has been approved for your operations. It will surprise you to note that throughout the year, they will not even receive 1/4, 1/4 of that allocation. They will keep telling you that, oh, we have just received this one, we have just, come on. A lot of gaps are there. And how can these MDAs be able to deliver what has been promised? Remember, every year at the state opening of Parliament, the president will outline his program of events, things he intends to do, things he wants his government to achieve from May this year, for instance, to May next year. You understand? So all of these plans can only come to reality by what? The budget, the finances that the government will be able to raise, and how these finances are managed to address these concerns. So to me, we just see a lot of promises upon promises upon promises. That is why in my submission on the day of the opening day of the debate on the budget, I made it clear that you people, I mean the present SLPP government, has promised us before coming to power, and now that they're in power, they still keep on promising people. Where are we going? For education, for instance, they told us that we are going to spend not less than $50 US per child, per annum. Okay? Go out there. Sierra Leoneans, you know what's been catered for by the government in the so-called free education. You know. I will always say access has been provided to a very large extent, because now the kids cannot be deprived of schooling as a result of fees. That aspect has been taken care of. I'm proud to say yes. I'll give them kudos for that. But that is not even half of what was promised in the not less than $50 package that this government promised to spend on every school-going child in this country. Every school-going child in this country was promised that they will be catered for their fees, which is 75,000 leones, core textbooks, 150,000 leones, what? Uniform, 2 sets uniform and shoes. For that, they placed there 75,000. No problem. You go again to other learning materials. For that, they placed 80,000. You understand? When you calculate that, it will give you a total figure of 380,000 leones. That is what they promised. that they will spend on every school-going child in this country. And that was equivalent by then to what? To $51. You understand? So now, if you take the present trend, what is happening? We have not been able to achieve that. Even the textbooks, the core textbooks provided to the kids in our school, when they give them, you know, it's just like they are borrowing them. Every day you must report with this book to school. We see it, we assess it. If there is damage in the book, if there is spillage in the book, right, your parents are going to pay for it.
But would you agree that the 2021, for example, was a very challenging, or is a very challenging year with countries all over the world, even bigger economies? They will tell you, I mean, the corresponding effect of the shock of COVID-19. These are things that put us at a place where we struggle to even understand where we are headed as a nation with regards to the economy, our plans, and how we are going to generate resources to fulfill some of those promises.
I agree with you, Samuel. This is the reality, right? And this is the reality a lot of nations across the world have been grappling with, managing and ensuring that, right, the lives of their people are maintained to the level. You go to Liberia, for instance, at the height of the COVID, the government of Liberia provided support to its citizens. You understand? And this support that we have from the international community to cushion up the effect of the COVID, right, it was not reflected. When rice came, they said what? First lady feeding the nation, mother of the nation feeding the nation. They politicize it. When the support came for those that were highly hit by the COVID, I mean industrial workers, hotel managers, and what have you, right? We also saw the drama. This is what we are saying. Somebody the other day was saying that if you analyze the coming of COVID, the outbreak of COVID, right, you will say it's a blessing in disguise.
How so?
Right? For his presentation, when you look at it, he was with the view that with COVID, this government will receive enormous support. Support came, right, for us to take care of a lot of things. And he talked about, we also provided, sometimes back, we also provided over 500 billion loans to cushion businesses. Remember, sometimes back I was here, and I made mention of that. What is the effect? Right, the prices of rice keep rising. And when we engage these people, they told us point blank that, honorable members, we are sorry, but the reality is, as a nation, the only way out of this food security issue is for us to embark on agriculture.
All right.
If we depend on importation of rice, no matter what, even if you remove all waivers, right, to zero,
that's as a result.
that is it. That nothing will change. Nothing will change. And the government keep coming with promises.
All right.
Remember, they talk about tractors to boost agriculture.
We'll come to the promises.
What has been
done?
done?
Stay with us. Let me bring in Honorable Gevao to respond to some of these concerns you've raised, and the issue of the promises in 2021, in the 2021 budget, and the allocations of about 70% to MDAs, especially when we're in the 11th month, almost the end of the fiscal year.
You see, this was just what I was telling a colleague of mine in Parliament. Our colleagues in Parliament, they are missing the point. They are debating the budget as though they are debating the presidential speech delivered at the State of the Union address. This is not the presidential speech. This is the budget. I mean, budget is quite different from that. He himself has said, I had not wanted to delve into that. He himself has said, yes, I mean, kids go to school, they don't pay fees. Do you know how much that one really costs the government? For all the school-going kids in this country to be going to school and the government paying for all of them. He has said the kids that go to school do receive school learning materials, but yet the teachers ask them, we want to see it. Would you want to just give them these school learning materials and they destroy it without you monitoring them? Is that the way you want your own taxpayers' money to be utilized? These are children. I mean, if you give them learning materials, you really want to ensure that they are using it for the purpose. You want to ensure that it is being kept in the right place. You want to ensure that they are not taking it to the market or market overt to go sell it. You know, so I mean, he did not mention the fact that there is school feeding program. In some areas of the country, he will acknowledge the fact that students who cannot afford do go to school and government do feed them. You know, one thing I know for sure is that no matter how much the government performs, the opposition will never praise them. They will have, I mean, their wish is to see government fail so that they can take advantage of that. But if we really are honest with ourselves, let us compare what has happened from December 2019 to December 2021, and compare what happened in Sierra Leone, let's say in 2014 to 2015. When Ebola hit Sierra Leone being the only nation in the whole world, or Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia being the only 3 countries in the entire world hit by that pandemic, with all the other nations coming to our aid, the government then had to declare austerity. Austerity measures were declared. We got to a point where even to pay fees. I remember I knew people who were working at Miltimagai Teachers, Teachers College. They used to go for 5 months, 6 months without salary. And that was evident of the fact that if you see a government declare austerity measures, it tells you we have to manage the little we have because we don't have it. That was just, I mean, a period of 1 year or 1 year, 2 months. We have been hit by this COVID-19 for, let's say, 3 years now. A pandemic that has hit the entire nation. Even if you go to America today, the inflationary rate has gone, I mean, to a record high. You go to Britain, it has gone to a record high. Supply chain of goods has been broken down. How do you want Liberia to be able to maintain the price of rice to how it were before COVID-19, when the importation of rice, let's say, comes from China and Thailand do not even have the container to bring this rice? I mean, you don't blame countries all around the globe. It's just what we are faced with. I mean, it's not like you're saying, oh, they are promising, they are not doing it. We are faced with a situation where we are merely trying to absorb the shock. Our economy is in shock. When we come to the budget proper, I will explain to them how much resilience this economy has been able to maintain irrespective of the shock that we've been hit. They are talking about donor funds, they are talking about monies that came in. They themselves know that within this period, monies have been going out to people who before now had never been considered for state funds. That is something that I'll actually dilate on when we come to the budget proper. But I really want us to limit ourselves. If we're here to discuss the budget, the 2022 budget, let's limit ourselves to the 2022 budget, juxtapose it with how our economy has performed in 2021, irrespective of the shock that our economy was faced with, and go forward. But if we mix it up with the State of the Union address that the president normally delivers, then we will actually not be doing justice to what the people are expecting us to do as far as this budget is concerned.
Honorable Abdul Kabo submitted something that is very critical. The fact that we have the Ministry of Finance who is responsible for disbursing the budgetary allocations to the different ministries, departments, and agencies of the state. And the economy is challenging. So we do not have enough money to actually go around according to the Ministry of Finance. But if the Ministry of Finance is violating the Public Financial Management Act, for example, which stipulates 2% of what you should use as contingency or whatever, and you're going to 14% and all of that, but that money is available. Are we not deliberately starving other institutions from performing, and at the end of the day, the effect goes back to the ordinary people?
The point that Honorable Kabo tried to make, I beg to differ.
Right.
Firstly, he was trying to say the Finance Act is taking powers from other institutions. Yes, it has happened today. It has always been happening since time immemorial. If you notice that there is a lacuna for the payment of tax, and that has to do with this institution. And you cannot actually just go and impose upon them that you have to actually stop implementing or you have to start implementing it. You have to amend that particular act just so that it becomes legal. This is not the only time it has happened. It happened in 2019, it happened in 2020, it will happen in 2021, and even before 2018, this administration. I mean, unless you say there is going to be no Finance Act. Because what these experts do, they look at the financial landscape and see other gray areas where they will be able to tap into, where we have loopholes, and see how they will be able to tap into resources just so that there will be available funds for state for the running of the state. And they wouldn't do that one if they actually don't amend certain laws. Right through our lifespan in Parliament, they know that is what happens. Let's say when they brought the treasury, the single treasury account, the single treasury account had to amend several other acts. Before now, let's say EPA. EPA was an income generating institution. They generate their income, they use their income to run the institution. Because of the single treasury account, all the incomes now that they generate has to go through this treasury, the single treasury account. Then a proportion of that has to be remitted again to them. So if you want to do that one, you definitely have to amend their own act that gives them the power then as to how you want it to run now. So that is not a novelty. I mean, that is diminishes. They are saying certain institutions don't get their disbursement. My brother, like I said, the opposition will never praise the ruling government because they want to use it or seize an opportunity to come to power. Have you ever heard of a demonstration out there by teachers, by health workers and the like on a massive scale to say they have not been paid for 3, 4, 5, 6 months since this administration came into being? No. I say emphatically no. In fact, the total number of teachers since this government took power has increased. Every teacher gets salary on time. Every health worker gets salary on time. Even though we are in a COVID-19 situation, we've never gone to bed with empty stomach. No worker has gone to his or her home, not us parliamentarians, not the police, not the military, not the teachers, not the health workers, have gone without salary, let's say 10 days, when the months come to an end. Where do we expect all of these monies to come from? It's as a result of the resilience that this economy is building, just so that we do not sink. We are not being bailed out. We are not on austerity measures. We are still using monies that we collect from taxpayers to pay workers, to fund projects and the like. So I would say, when we come to the budget proper, I would say the government, the administration, the Ministry of Finance is doing extremely well. If you are to grade them, you give them distinction as compared to what they want people to believe.
Okay.
I mean, what is about state governance? State governance is about taking care of your people, ensuring that people get paid, ensuring that people go to school, ensuring that there is peace. That is state governance. And that is what I think we are enjoying, irrespective of the situation in which we are today.
All right.
It's 3 years since COVID hit. Let them check what is happening in America. Let them check what is happening in Australia. Let them check what is happening in Ghana. Let us compare prices. Let us compare even fuel prices in Sierra Leone. Let us see what is the interjection that government is doing, just so that prices of basic necessity doesn't go up like fuel. If not for government intervention, maybe we would have been buying fuel by now at 120 or 130,000. But all of what government is doing is using just the same source of money, taxpayers' money. We are not exporting because of COVID. So many workplaces have closed. I mean, we are trying to diversify the economy, get more into agriculture. My brother, Honorable Abu and the Honorable here, I am sure they themselves have now embarked on agriculture. And that one is showing positive effect. And going forward, we will start to see the ramification of all of us embarking on agriculture. And that's what I believe all of us can do for us to survive this pandemic and not tearing ourselves down just because of we want to gain political and power.
Honorable Abdul Kabul, let me hear you with regards to the 2021 budget, the things that were presented in the 2021 budget, and how far did we go in implementing those policies?
Before I come to that, let me just make some clarifications. Yeah, we are helping government so that they correct the wrongs that they are doing now. We know that we are in opposition, but we are not opponents to the development of this nation. We are proponents to the development of this nation. After 2023, we will be cleaning some of the mistakes of SLPP. So we are in a better position to guide them not to take this country to where we would find it difficult to redeem after we would have come to power after 2023. So all our suggestions are to help government. We are not doing it to bring government down. We have had that phobia that whenever somebody speaks or somebody is very critical of government, that person is an opposition. No. Let me correct my learned colleague, Honorable Guevara. He said, when we are debating the budget, we should not talk about the president, the state opening address of the president. He said because they don't have any correlation, we should just deal about the budget. We should not mix up things. No. Honorable, the economic policies of this nation begins from the president, the state opening address of the president. For example, if in the state opening of the address of the president says, I am going to give free education, I am going to buy books, I am going to buy uniform, that should reflect on the budget. When you look at the budget, it should reflect. And that also should reflect on the microeconomics variables. So there is no way you can disconnect state opening address of the president and the budget. They are intertwined because the economic policy proposed by the president is what the budget should speak to. Yeah? But Samuel, without wasting time, please permit me. Yeah? I read through, for the sake of consistency in messaging, I read paragraph, page 13 of the new manifesto, direction manifesto. I noticed that the same wordings, the same punctuation, are in also paragraph 39 of page 10 of the state opening address of the president. The same wording, the same manifesto, the same punctuations are in paragraph 27 of 2019 state opening address of the president. And it says, and I quote, the new direction will introduce the practice of annual budget ceiling, annual debt ceiling, beyond which government cannot borrow. Samuel, the borrowing is destroying our country. One of the most credible civil society organization, Budget Advocacy Network, said in their press release that government said they would not borrow above the ceiling they would propose. But interestingly, government has never made public that ceiling. They have never made public that ceiling. So Budget Advocacy is requesting government to make public that ceiling. Why am I saying this? It is very disastrous for a nation when your debt servicing is 4% of your GDP. And that is what we are in as a nation, as Sierra Leone. Our debt servicing is 4% of our GDP, which is very unprecedented. There is no country in Africa or in the sub-region that you can find that. But quite apart from that, this government has increased our debt, our borrowing, by 72%. Meaning we have borrowed 72% more added to what we... Let me make this clear, yeah? In 2018, our external debt, our debt was at 17.83 trillion in 2018. But in 2020, our external debt became 30.71 trillion. So it's meaning for the past 10 years, when the previous government was in power, yeah, they borrowed 15.04 trillion. Because when they were in power in 2007, when they came to power, our debts were 2.78 trillion. And by when they were leaving power in 2018, it was 17.83 trillion. So for 10 years, they borrowed 15.03 trillion, the previous government. This government, for just 3 years, they have borrowed 13 trillion. And if you look at the projection for 2021, when this financial year ends, 2021, they would have borrowed 14.3 trillion, which is almost the same with the 15 trillion borrowed by the previous government. So for 3 years, what they have borrowed is almost equal to what the previous government borrowed for 10 years. So it is alarming. It is alarming as a nation.
And what pressure does that put on crippling economy.
That is what I am coming to. In fact, I did a calculation, and the calculation I did is our total debt by the number of people we have as a nation. I took into cognizance Statistics Sierra Leone, their population census. I came to the realization that this government has borrowed to the extent that each Sierra Leonean has $422 debt if we are to pay equitably. Each Sierra Leonean, that is the debt this government has brought us to. And let me tell you, in 2019, 15 sub-Saharan African countries, we are classified as high risk of debt distress in 2019. And Sierra Leone was not among those 15 sub-Saharan African countries. But in 2020, we borrowed $2.2 billion. $2.2 billion in 2020. And now we are amongst the country with the highly indebted countries in the sub-Sahara. Let me tell you, our total debt now, external debt is $2 billion. Internal debt, domestic debt is $1.1 billion. Our total debt is $3.1 billion, which is 77% of our GDP, the highest in the sub-region. When other countries were reducing their debt in COVID, we were just increasing
Was it not
our
needed?
borrowing.
Was it not needed?
What were they doing
Because
with
the country...
You spoke about the help we had from international countries, from other countries, the assistance we had. What were they doing with it? For a country to be able to borrow such huge sum, you must have seen the difference. You must have seen the difference. I am telling you, other countries reduced their borrowing during COVID. Because what were the development project government was engaging? There was none. You understand? And let me tell you the danger, Samuel. Now, remember, just from our domestic revenue, the revenue we generate domestically, 25% of it is used for debt servicing. Yeah? And 59%, almost 60%, is used for the wage bill. So wage bill plus debt servicing has 84% of our domestic revenue. So if it's only our domestic revenue, we only have 16%
to run the state.
to run the states. Debt servicing and wage bill has eaten all of the money. What are we up to as a nation? What are we up to as a nation? Why do we go out for that? And I have not landed, Samuel.
Why? You have time.
You have to ask yourself, for a country to be highly indebted, like Sierra Leone, what are we doing? Are we constructing roads? Most of the roads that were under construction have stopped. You go to the Toke Road, the contractors have demobilized. You go to this bypass road, they have demobilized.
And the Ministry of Finance is saying no new projects. I mean, they're going to embark on.
No
they
new
have to
projects.
complete all of those projects
Even the
now.
old project. Let me tell you, in 2021 and in 2020, monies were allocated for the completion of the Toke Road. But you go there are no engineers there. They have demobilized. In as much as they have demobilized, government is still expending money for those roads. Just to increase the debt. Yeah? Go to electricity. When you take debt, it should reflect. Some way you trust them for you. Government cannot buy fuel. Even in my constituency in Nunge, we are going out almost to 3 weeks without electricity because government cannot buy fuel. With all of this debt, I have told you, if the debt were to be shared equitably among Sierra Leoneans, each Sierra Leonean is to pay
almost 5 million,
exactly,
according to your
exactly.
estimation.
And Samuel, what is more disastrous is the wage bill. It's the wage bill. I told you under debt servicing and wage bill, they have eaten 84% of the domestic revenue. We only have 16% to run the state, which is very infinitesimal.
But do we not, because I followed, for example, that the wage bill rose to 2 trillion, and it is expected to go to about 3.15 trillion before the year ends. And but looking at the people they are recruiting, and they've always advanced arguments that we need the teachers And if you take a look at the wage bill, the teachers and the nurses alone, they make about 70 or 80% of the staff of government. So those are people we need to run the state.
I will answer that.
Go ahead.
I will answer that, Samuel. I will answer that. That is where the insincerity lies. Yeah? That is where the insincerity lies. In 2018, the wage bill was 1.9 trillion. As I'm speaking, the wage bill is 3.9 trillion. So 2 trillion has been added to the wage bill. So the wage bill rose by over 104%. Over 104%.
Because of the recruitment of
now,
teachers and
let's
nurses.
take teachers. Let's take teachers. Let me just do some. I'm an engineer by profession, so calculation is not my problem. Let's make use of it. Yeah? Let's agree for argument's sake that they have employed 5,000 teachers, which they are claiming. Yeah? 5,000 teachers. You would not pay one of those 5,000 teachers more than $1 million.
Really?
Some teachers are paid less than $1 million.
Really?
I have evidences to that. Yeah? Really? Let us, for argument's sake, I know teachers who have PIN codes that don't receive salaries. But for argument's sake, let us say all of them are receiving salaries. So it is 1 million per 5,000 teachers. 1 million by 5,000, for 1 year, it is 60 billion leos. So meaning for the teachers alone, you add 60 billion leos to the wage bill. Yeah? We are talking of an increment of 2 trillion, which is not even 6%.
Salary increases are also being made.
I'm coming there, Samuel. Just allow me.
Go ahead.
We are talking about increase of 6%. So the teacher's salary contributes 6% to the wage bill increment. Yeah? 6%. But what they would not tell you, let me tell you why the wage bill is as skyrocketed. Let me tell you. What they did, one, they ensure that they employ deputy ambassadors to all our embassies in the world. And for each ambassador, you
are monopolizing the space. You've been going on.
They are coming to you.
Your time. Go ahead.
Yeah, they are coming to you. Don't be afraid. For each deputy ambassador, you pay thousands of dollars. They can pay more than 15 to 20 teachers, one ambassador. Yeah? They've employed all deputy ambassadors in all of the embassies we have in the world. Quite apart from that, they have created more embassies. But they are giving the bad name to the teachers.
But
yeah? I am coming,
the world is looking at economic diplomacy. Are those embassies not needed?
Samuel, let me land. I'll come to your answer. I just want to show where this wage bill is going. Yeah?
You can't take all the time.
They have created 5 new ministries. 5 new ministries. Yeah, they divided the Ministry of Finance, they divided the Ministry of Social Welfare, they divided the Ministry of Education, they divided the Ministry of Lands and Environment, they created the Ministry of Western Region. Yeah, they added 5 new ministries. You are coming, allow me, Mr. Guevara, Honorable Guevara, allow me. 5 new ministries, and all of those ministries, they are giving their money. But they would not talk about that. The teachers have the bad name. Yeah, let me tell you. They have created more than 15 agencies just to create jobs for the boys. Wow. Let me tell you, at a very difficult economic dispensation like this, we should be giving more responsibility to existing agencies instead of creating agencies that will have to pay.
Would they not be overwhelmed with responsibilities? Take, for example, the world is, Sierra Leone and the rest of the world is being threatened by climate change. There's a new ministry for environment. There's a disaster agency with all the threats out there. Are those institutions, for example, not needed?
That is why they should be truthful to say these are the things we have done that have increased the wage bill. But teachers that are living deplorable life are the ones who are having the bad name.
So they should not be blamed?
No, they should not be blamed.
Let me bring it on.
They should not be blamed. They should not be blamed.
So with the 2021 budget, moving into the 2022 budget, where are the lapses in 2021 as we go into 2022? Because the 2022 budget technically is a continuation of the 2021 budget. We're going to just concentrate on those projects that we've not completed as a nation. So we're not going to embark on new projects. We have projects that we've said we're going to do, that we've started. These are the projects we're going to continue because we are unable to complete them as a result of the COVID.
Thank you very much. I saw my colleague, Honorable Geva, raising concern for time. And going forward, I believe that's something you need to take note of.
I've always given you equal time. Go ahead, you have your equal time.
So like in the area of the wage bill, I want to say a little about that, because it is very important that we say out the truth to our people out there. I always tell people that as members of parliament, we are the people's representative, irrespective of our political parties. Yes, people will come here, they will sit and talk in the interest and pleasure of their various political parties. So be it.
Like you're doing now?
No, what I'm saying, as members of parliament,
yes,
we owe this responsibility and sacred duty to our people. They entrusted everything that concerns their well-being in our hands. We are very important, and that duty is very sacred.
Right.
So it will be a war on us to deceive our people in the name of making cheap political points. You understand? In the area of the wage bill, now we have almost 3.9 trillion for 2022. The projected wage bill that this government is going to pay on wages and salary. You understand? And if I take you to their manifesto, their promises they made, it is clear there that one of the things they were so passionate about was what? The unprecedented wage bill. In fact, they have the jargons they used to describe it.
Overbloated.
Overbloated, thank you for the reminder. You know, they said the wage bill was overbloated, that we have double dipping and sometimes even triple dipping, quadruple dipping. They have the way they described it. But by then it was not up to this level. Here we are now. You are talking about recruitment of teachers, you are talking about recruitment of nurses. My colleague has said it all. When you check the salaries of the nurses and teachers, one director in MPPA, one director in the newly created disaster management agency, for instance, one director alone there, right? His salary is enough to pay over 20 teachers.
Correct.
Yes.
But every year,
You understand? I'm coming.
increases have been made.
That is what I'm saying. Okay, let's take it that way.
Security sector.
Let's take it that way.
Teachers.
Let's
increases have been made.
Let's take it that way. Let's say, for argument's sake, every teacher in this country receives 1.5 million leons as a salary. You understand? Let's just take that as for argument's sake, that all the teachers in this country, no one of them receive less than 1,500,000. You multiply that and you see the figure in line with what they are saying here, responsible for this increase. They are not telling the people the truth. The truth is a lot of MDAs have been created, which to me are not too necessary. But when you argue it, they'll say it's because you are in opposition. And I will make this correction, I will reiterate this point again, that as members of parliament from the opposition angle, we are here to put this government on its toes. Gone are the days for opposition to just sit and keep quiet and allow the government to ravage the country. No, we will not allow that to happen. We will keep saying it. When things are wrong, we'll say it. And we'll not only say it, but we'll say them loudly, so that it gets into them and let them straight up and know that the people, they have a responsibility to the people of this nation.
Just quickly, all three of you can have a bite, but let me ask this question. As we talk about pressure on the economy with regards to salaries and wages, you members of parliament are also factored into that. You've received some increases. So you're also putting pressure on the economy.
I will tell you, this is an argument that the SLPP will always want to find ways and means to balance, to escape. But there is no escape route here, Samuel.
I'll come to you.
Right? There is no escape route here, Samuel.
Yeah.
Right? Members of parliament, we take home nothing more than, nothing more than,
I'll tell the public what we take home.
nothing,
I'll tell the
listen to
public.
me, we take home
I'll tell the
nothing
public.
more
Don't say
than,
it so that your
listen,
constituents will not go.
no,
Tell the
we
public.
take home nothing more than 20 million euros.
No, you do.
You understand? That's what we take home. And you check out there some of these directors, right? In these MDAs. You have a single person in this government that, we have a single individual that is receiving a salary that is more than 4 or 5 MPs. They will not tell you that.
More than 100 million.
You understand? They will not tell you that. Of course, the pressure we have as members of parliament, we know, and that is why we opted to it. Was because we believe that we are in this capacity because our people trust in us, they believe in our leadership, and therefore we absorb all these pressures. But going forward, we want to hear the truth from this government. Let them be sincere enough and tell the people that they have failed the people of this nation as a result of their measures that they have embarked on. All the things they promise, I will not debate this thing. I will not argue on this thing. I will not talk on this document without referencing all the state opening addresses of the president, without referencing the document that ushered in this government into power, which is the People's Manifesto, the New Direction Manifesto, the One Country, One People Manifesto 2018. In that manifesto, that is where they outlined their programs, things that we are going to embark upon when given the mandate. And indeed, the people of this nation have given them the mandate. Now they are in the driving seat. If they fail to do those things they promised, it is in our position as members of parliament, as members of opposition party, to remind them that you said ABC, and now we are seeing XYZ. What is happening? This is what we are doing. This is our role as opposition members. Honorable Gevawi has seated, will never challenge this government. And it's for obvious reason. I can understand with him. He's a decent man. I know him personally. And you remember the famous ACC saga, the indictment on parliament. You remember the stand he took as an individual. You remember that? Not so? He and Tawa and others, the stand they took, the position they took to see that we have accountability and correctness in our system. At the end of the day, what happened? He was muscled by his political party. So I can understand with him. You know, this is Sierra Leone, the nation where people don't want to hear the truth. When you say the truth, they say, so to this, you know, I'm better.
But how come do you go on annually, for example, there are issues with the budget? I mean, there are concerns, grave concerns that promises are being made.
Somewhere can I have a bite?
Yeah, you will. And things are being put into the budget of, I mean, what the government would do, and they'll come back at the end of the day without accomplishing them. But you keep ratifying the Finance Act every year, and you keep approving the budget.
That's a good one, Samuel. And the answer to that is the system of governance we have. In Africa, we have what we call the winner takes it all, right? As it is now, the SLPP government, the SLPP as a political party, they are in charge of all the 3 arms of government.
How so?
They have control over all the 3 arms of government. I'm coming. I know what I'm saying. The Speaker of Parliament is SLPP. The head of Parliament is SLPP.
And they are now
You understand?
majority in
You
Parliament.
understand? They have, forget about the majority. The speakership is very crucial in all of this. Because at the end of the day,
But
members of parliament, I'm coming. You will hear thunderous nay, and the speaker will say, no, the eyes have it. I'm coming. You understand? Because how dare the speaker to go against the government of the day, under whose ticket he was elected as Speaker of the House. This is the problem we have. And as long as the speakership of parliament has been politicized, we will always keep having these problems. You know, that is why I blame the previous government.
In essence, you're saying parliament is
the previous government,
by the executive.
the previous government, I blame them strongly. This is one thing I am not taking slight with them, because we used to have retired experienced judges to serve in that capacity as speakers of parliament who have little or nothing to do with politics. But now we have a system wherein political parties, right, put in candidates for the election of speakership in parliament. And as it turns out to be, what? The SLPP are in charge. So definitely, even if the members of parliament go out, you argue, you do your findings, you come with them to the well. So you know how many reports are there that have not been debated? You know how many Auditor General's reports, for instance, we have that are lying down in the table of the House. Motions have been moved consistently. I'm told since 2016. Up to now, no Auditor General's report has been debated in the well of Parliament, because these are the areas wherein members of Parliament will have the first hand, right, based on legal and professional auditing. All right. Things they will come up with. We as parliamentarians, it's our responsibility enshrined in the Constitution that the Auditor General's report, once it is presented to Parliament, it is our duty as members of Parliament to debate that report. And this report is what gives us an eye-opener, so that we see some of these things that have gone wrong, and as Parliament, we call to tax those who are to call to tax. This is the Parliament you will see. Members of Parliament, committee members will go out on their findings, and when they come with their findings to be debated, in fact, some of these oversight functions, you will be on oversight and you have a call. Your activity will be interrupted. Who will call? You know, I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you exactly what is happening. I understand. So people should not blame us as Parliament. When you look at the system, right? So how has this Parliament is influencing Parliament greatly? For the entire session, for instance, you give a committee a sum of 50 or 60 million euros to go on oversight, right? Will that one oversight trip be enough for that committee, right, to go and probe into the activities of the MDAs under its purview? But you still request for funding from the MDAs for them to fund your oversight team. No. I have evidence to the fact that committees in Parliament have always requested from MDAs to go for the outside function. And I believe the Honorable Abdulia Kabo is the chairman of one of the committee that I'm a member, the Youth Committee, and we've gone on oversight. We have our reports. You understand? Right. I am not knowledgeable about that, but all I will say, if Parliament must be independent, if Parliament should be able to perform its function, devoid of external influence, we should have autonomy in terms of the power of the purse, in terms of having a standing budget through which Parliament will be able to fund its own activities. Okay. But if we say everything, when we want to undertake any activity, we go to the executive for the approval and what have you. That is where the problem is. That is where the control is. All right. At the end of the day. Stay with us. Let me bring in the Honorable Indolo Givao to respond to some of the things you both have raised.
So much has been said. By the time the 5-year comes to an end, I know the God I serve would have indicated Honorable Givao.
You like prayers.
Yes. I know I'll be vindicated. I'll say nothing to all what you have said. With regards Parliament, I'll start from there. The APC government decided to deliberately, I wouldn't use a harsh word, deliberately usurp and destroy the beauty of Parliament. The beauty of our Constitution. The beauty. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. Justice Abel Strong, one of the best and finest Sierra Leoneans, was serving as Speaker of Parliament. I agree with you on that. APC said he was not playing ball with them. They brought the Constitution, and that provision in the Constitution says, before you are appointed as Speaker, you must be either a Supreme Court judge or be qualified to serve as a Supreme Court judge. That was why all the Speakers of Parliament then, before SBB Dubuya, were either Supreme Court judges or people qualified to be Supreme Court judges. But because they wanted to manipulate, to have their way, They physically removed that gentleman, Justice Abel Strong. He's still around. They physically removed him and brought in SBB Dumbuya by amending the Constitution.
You are right in that.
I mean, what is it that they are saying? When you destroy democracy and people merely try to follow what you have laid, what are you trying to say? When the SLPP government was in power, it was Justice Kawan that was, Speaker of Parliament. They follow stricto sensu what the Constitution said. You came, you wanted to manipulate, you wanted to pass laws, 12 o'clock in the midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You brought SBB Dumbuya. He did all of the dirty work for you. Please don't complain, please. We are merely following the democracy. We are nurturing the democracy that you brought on us. Even when we tried to review the Constitution, you said because we have decided to dilute Supreme Executive Authority, you said you were going to unsign your signature, APC. You did that one.
Let's go to the budget.
So the problem we're having with the budget is as a result of the foundation laid by the APC.
I am not. I will analyze this budget.
Go ahead.
They have destroyed the fabric of this society. They destroyed our economy, and they are now trying to trumpet what is happening today, which as far as I'm concerned, to a very large extent, is as a result of the COVID-19, to say they will use it to come to power in 2023. Mark my words, 2023, hell no. You conducted it in 2018, we defeated you. Honestly, we'll defeat you hands down in 2023 and even in 2028. Trust you me. Let me come to the wage bill. Members of Parliament sit here, deceiving the public that the wage bill is going up. Honorable Charles, when the SLPP government took power, you were paid 12 million euros. 12 million euros was what you are paid. Today you are paid 21,500,000 euros. Someone calculate that one. It's about 80% increase. If every member of Parliament, 146 members of Parliament, everybody is giving 80% increment since 2018 to now, won't the wage bill go up? Is it going to remain as it was? When we sit in public, let us be honest. You would have gone to the president to say, please reverse our salary to 12 million so that the wage bill will be reduced. You get a whooping 21,500,000 euros. Your salary, yes, it pays 10 teachers. You are saying teachers are being paid. In fact, it pays 20 teachers. Let us accept. Honorable Abdul said teachers are being paid less than 1 million euros. I don't know. But if what he's saying is true, his own salary pays 20 teachers. Is that fair? Is he saying because a teacher is paid 800,000 euros, he should be paid 800,000 euros? Mr. President, please start paying us members of Parliament.
Why did you talk about harmonization?
80 teachers.
Let us be fair.
Some directors will pay 80 teachers. Some directors will pay over 100 teachers.
800,000 euros.
Over 100 teachers.
You are clamoring for increment. If they increase your salary today to 25 million euros, the wage bill has to go up. It's not going to remain as it is. So when we criticize, let us factor ourselves how we have benefited in the criticism that we want to bring back to the public. I will soon read to the public. Look at where the government budget in 2022 is talking about wage bill. It is saying the wage bill is projected at 3.90 trillion compared to 3.75 trillion in 2021. So when you look at it, it's barely 25%, and they are justifying why. Are you trying to say these teachers whose salary the government is about to increase by 25%, they should remain where they are, and your own salary will be increased? No, that is what APC MP is saying. The teacher salary that the government has decided to increase over a period of 3 years,
that is not
government should not increase it.
No,
teachers should remain
you are misinforming the public.
No, that is what you are trying to say. You want to use this medium to campaign. When campaign time comes, let us campaign. You face me head on. Okay, so teacher's salary, health worker's salary is being increased in this budget by 25% over a period of 3 years, starting 2021. All the reason why the wage bill has been increased. So he is saying the wage bill should remain static.
No.
And as a result of that, teachers and nurses, health workers who are working around the clock, taking care of sick people, their salary should remain as it were.
I didn't say so.
No.
I said the wage bill skyrocketed because you created deputy commissioners.
I am not justifying. I am rebutting.
No, then don't misquote me.
I am rebutting.
No, don't misquote me.
As a result of
don't misquote me to the public.
It is being skyrocketed.
Don't misquote me. Don't misquote me.
Because of the increment.
Even if it were
in the health workers' salary.
Anyways, I will address you when you are done.
When you put the totality of all health workers and teachers together, I will tell you they will represent at least 10 to 15% of our population.
So
of the wage bill.
So in essence, you're saying the deputy ambassadors that Honorable Alukagbo is saying are responsible the establishment of new institutions,
5 ministries.
I mean, and are basically not the basis for the increase of salaries and wages.
Sometimes when we argue, I really laugh where we draw our inspirations from. You just got it right. Let's look at the global incidents or the way and the globe is going today.
Global diplomacy
is talking about global warming. Are you trying to say we should not pay some attention to the environment? Is the creation of the Ministry of Environment an extraordinary expenditure of this country? Let's talk about disaster. If there was no disaster management commission, as it happened in PMB, where 150 people died, was Honorable Abdulkabo alone going to be carrying all of them on their head and providing funds for the shock that this nation faced? When it happened in Motome, because there was no disaster management agency, we all know what happened. All the monies that people contributed went into the pockets of APC politicians. It went into their pockets. I have been there, people have been up to now being prosecuted for those cases. So this government is trying to create institutions to fill lacunas, gaps that they did not fill because they wanted to be taking these monies and putting it in their pocket. Let us look at what this government is doing. Let us talk about the MCC. You think if we were corrupt, we would have been passing the MCC? This is something that the international community look at your performance, your financial performance, and the way you fight certain parameters in your country, like corruption. All the reason, no wonder somebody has been indicted for $254 million. It's appropriation. No, I wouldn't name names. I'm a very gentle Sierra Leonean. So when we come to public and we want to criticize government, let us be honest enough to say we ourselves, the members of parliament, our salaries is being factored in this wage bill, all the reason why the wage bill is up. Okay? Our facilities, before now we never used to get fuel. This government gives every MP fuel allowance now. Is that not going to raise to the wage bill?
Calm down, so calm down.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about deputy ambassadors. Isn't that in the books? Where APC was in governance, where in their deputy ambassadors? No, they are where?
No,
they are where?
No.
I will tell you emphatically.
You don't know what is no. There were no deputy ambassadors.
They are where? I bet you.
Which country?
I bet you.
Which country?
With my bottom penny, they are where deputy ambassadors.
You even don't know what you are saying.
And when you sit on public and you start reading
don't even know what you are saying.
without justification, as an academist, when you read those figures, you should actually tell the public the source of it.
Which figure?
Oh, whatever figure.
But in the budget, you did not read the budget.
It's not in the budget.
You did not read the budget.
It's not in the budget. I will tell you, it's not in the budget.
At this man. Look at the microeconomic variables in the budget.
Refer the public to the page and the
paragraph. Look at Annex 7.
Okay, refer the public there. We are on a
Does the public have the budget? You have the budget.
No,
go to the microeconomic variables that are back of the budget.
This budget is on the media.
Anyways, I will respond to your talk. I will respond.
This budget is on internet. This budget is in the hands and phones of plenty Sierra Leoneans. So you just don't sit down and start quoting figures without referencing the source. I have just said the wage bill, the hue and cry over wage bill is justified. I will read it for the public. It says, the increase in the nominal wage bill reflects government's commitment to award a salary increase of 25% to all the security forces. All the security forces, including prison, fire force, military, and the like.
Are members of parliament there?
Come again?
Are members of parliament there?
Come again.
You want to school the argument to seek public sympathy?
25% of all security forces over 3 years period. That started in 2021. Employees of tertiary educational institutions, including universities, polytechnics, and government technical institutions, will also receive a further pay rise of 25%. The increase in the wage bill will also cover the recruitment of 1,200 teachers, 1,000 health workers, 1,000 police officers, 200 correctional officers, and 85 firefighters, as well as 500 academic and administrative staff. Fancy young men. With all of this expenditure, how would the wage bill go up? So are you trying to say in the 21st century, when government see need to motivate, to motivate teachers, to motivate health workers, to motivate our security forces, because of your own selfish need, you want to win election, this government should not do it?
Even if you
shouldn't operate like that. Let us be honest.
Even if you had 100% increment
as members of parliament
for all of these sectors, even if you had 100% for all of these sectors, it cannot surmount to that.
From 12 million
rounding up now.
12 million in 2018, Honorable Abdukagbo now gets 21,500,000. Honorable Abdukagbo in 2012 never used to get fare allowance, members of the public. Because of the hue and cry by him, a member of parliament, that he wanted fare allowance, this government gave him fare allowance. He now gets money. And when you put those monies together, it's a huge chunk of monies, you know.
And you are not getting it?
Oh, I get it.
Okay.
That's why I want to commend the government that the wage bill that APC is crying about is justified. It's not going into our pocket as it's used to go into the APC politicians' pocket.
Samuel.
That is why we are passing the MCC. That is why we continue prosecuting corrupt politicians, and it cuts across. Okay. So let us don't cry down this government talking about loan. Let's talk about the loan for a second.
Struggling.
Why haven't you
to defend?
Why haven't you referred the public as to the international debt that APC left?
I said it.
No, you did not.
I said it. You were not paying attention.
No, you did not.
I'll say it again.
Okay, you say
I'll say it again.
So it's not the trillions that you are talking about. It's not a loan. I'm taking just by the SLPP government.
I will say it again. I'll go over what I said. You are not paying attention.
We make a huge chunk of both domestic and international debt. If I just refer to this.
This man did not read this book.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Man, total interest payments are projected at 1.44 trillion. These are interest on loans.
Which is bad.
It's bad because we inherited a huge backlog of loans. It could not be 1.44 trillion if the backlog wasn't high. The backlog was so huge and high, we have paid and paid and paid and paid, and yet the interest that we continue paying continue to rise. Because you people were just taking monies and putting it in your pocket. And all the reason why, as a result of the robustness of anti-corruption, this nation's name and image has now been cleansed in the international arena, and we can now pass an international exam that puts us on a better pedestal in the globe. So don't cry us down. Don't.
Okay. Samuel, can I?
All right.
Okay.
Yes, you can. So I want us to just a little bit specific, specific now on some of the issues.
I want
in the
to clarify some of what
quickly. I'll give you a minute to do so.
Okay. Firstly, he said, of course, he said most of the increments are as a result of the fact that MP salaries were increased.
That's one.
Yeah, I'm coming. I was quiet while you were talking. Yeah? He did not make mention of the deputies. There were no deputy ambassadors. This government chose deputy ambassadors in all of the missions. And each deputy ambassador receives higher salary than a member of parliament.
He knows that.
No, I don't know.
He did not talk about that. You understand? Each deputy ambassador receives salary than the member of parliament. They employ advisors to the Ministry of Finance, which he did not make mention of. And those advisors are getting $5,000.
There is need for
wait me. I was quiet when you were talking. I was quiet when you were talking. Those advisors are paid $5,000 a month. If I am lying, let him ask Dr. John Karimo. He is one advisor that is being paid $5,000.
You are being economical with the truth.
Allow me.
Dr. John Karimo is not on $5,000 a month.
I will bet you.
When we see
I will bet you.
Well, come with the
I will bet you. Allow me to learn.
No, come with his pay slip.
Allow me to learn.
Come with his pay slip.
Do you want to talk?
Samuel,
do you want to talk? Let's respect our listeners. I was quiet when you were lying.
He was not being honest. That was the salary that APC left that same office person so that I'm enjoying. The person who was holding that office,
please tell him that he had had his bite.
Okay,
Tell him, please respect for him. You see, he's so emotional.
Not emotional.
That is what happened with these guys. When you tell them the truth, they just become emotional. Allow me, stay cool.
Law, we talk with
stay
authority.
cool, stay cool.
Dr. John Kaimo is paid $5,000.
Stay cool, stay cool. Now they have employed advisors at the Ministry of Finance who they are paying more than members of parliament. They have employed director for more than 15 agencies who they are paying more than members of parliament. Yeah? Let us go to some of these agencies. They have the National Council for Civic Education. Allow me.
No.
You are interrupting. I was quiet when you were talking.
We cannot come on public medium to deceive the public.
You have deceived the public already, but we allowed you.
State one institution where such director is that is being paid more than a member of parliament.
Honorable members, let's have.
Tell him.
Quiet.
I respect me. Give me the ambience.
Go ahead.
When you were talking, most of what you said, we are not correct.
Just talk with
but
authority.
I allowed you.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Make your case.
Thank you. Now they have the National Sport Authority. Yeah. They have the National Council for Civic Education. They have the Sierra Leone Seed Certification Agency. They have the National Disaster Management Agency. They have the Sierra Leone Embassy in Egypt. They have the Directorate of Science and Technology. They have the Strategic Advisory Group for Emergency. They have the National Monitoring and Evaluation Department. They have the Wages and Salary Commission. They have the National Water Resources Management Initiative. They have the National... All of these, if I name them, it will not get out of this place.
Name them.
And these people are having staff working for them. The directors are paid more than members of parliament, but he would not say that.
No.
He would not say that.
No,
but let me leave him. He said the debts were accrued from APC.
Right.
Let me make correction on that. In 2019, there is what IMF does. They have debt sustainability analysis. The reports they give every year, annually. In 2019, 15 sub-Sahara countries in Africa were classified as high risk of debt distress. Sierra Leone was not among those countries.
But we still had debt.
No, yes, we had, but we were at moderate risks of debt distress. Let me tell you, in 2020, this government borrowed $2.5 billion. 2.5. I talk with authorities. I have the figures.
What is
you
the
understand?
source?
In the budget. Go to the budget. Let me talk.
Yes.
It did not read.
No, you have the budget.
It did not read. It did not read. It did not read. Go to the debt under 2020. I don't have time for you. Yeah, let me make my point. Let me make my point. Yeah. They borrowed 2.5 billion. You understand? And that took us from moderate to high risks of debt distress. We are now among the countries that are highly indebted in sub-Sahara. Let me tell you, the external debt in 2020 is 2 billion. The domestic debt is 1.1 billion. Go to your budget. It is there.
Yes,
go under debt. It is there. You understand?
When you say the truth,
no,
I support you.
I'm calling, allow me, my friend. Allow me. But these are things they would not say. These are things. He listed some. Let me tell you, salary increment from MP did not begin now. The former government came, they were paying MP a little more than 2 million loans. And they raised it up to more than 12 million loans. The former government. No, that is what I am telling you. So that, no, let me tell you. Allow me.
Wait, give away.
Allowing me. You are disrespecting listeners and viewers.
It increased the wage bill.
Yes, but it did not increase the wage bill by 72%. The 72%, let me tell you, salary increment did not begin now. So if salary increment was responsible for substantial increments in the wage bill, I will tell him no. It did not begin now. You understand? Over 10 million euros were added to the salary. It contributes one minimal. You understand? I am telling him what has contributed to the skyrocketed increment in the wage bill.
Of new agencies.
Exactly, more than 15 agencies.
Right,
and I have not landed. I have not landed.
Go.
Yes, I have not landed, sir.
Land.
And I want him to note. You see, some of these things when we say them because we want this government to land and correct their mistakes so that our country will not land into debt. You understand? We've had enough, and it will come. Let me tell you. Now the secret is there are lots of international organizations who are not giving us budgetary support again. budgetary support again. The EU has stopped giving budgetary support. The ADB has stopped giving supportary budget. The FID has stopped giving supportary budget to this country. The only organization that is giving supportary budget to this country is the World Bank. It's the World Bank. And we keep going out to borrow. We keep going out to borrow. This is no politics. This is for our country. The debt we are living now will have to be paid by generations yet unborn. That is why we are asking government to state the ceiling. The ceiling that we are saying that there is a debt ceiling. Let them state the ceiling.
Let's get to talk about the 22% allocated to education and look at what education is actually doing, which is, with regards to the amount of investment being put into it. Let me have your bite on that first.
You see, I have said we are in opposition, but we are not opponent to the development of this nation. Yeah? The current Minister of Education, Senge, is doing well. You understand? He is doing well. And let me tell you, the budgetary allocation to education is not even 22%. Yeah? You know what they did? When we calculate the budget, the wages and salaries are different from the allocation to the MDAs. They are different.
Right.
So you don't include teacher salaries as part of the budgetary allocation to education. You remove it. That is what they did for all the ministries, departments, and agencies. In fact, there are some agencies, ministry and department, their salaries alone is 75% of their entire allocation. And they are saying, we have allocated this amount. Yeah? If you remove...
And are you saying their salaries are included in the 22%?
Yes. The salaries for all the teachers are included to the education budget.
Which should not be.
No, it should not. That is high level of insincerity. He does not know that he did not read the budget.
No, I do. And tell me teachers' contribution is not part of education.
Allow me.
No, you say
they have the wages and salaries.
No, you say
it is different from the budgetary allocation. That is what I am telling you. I am telling you how budgets have been prepared since the Pope was an altar boy. You don't include wages and salaries as part of budgetary allocation to MDAs.
Why?
It's done on its own.
Leave him. He does not know. And now, that is what they are doing. So when they say we are giving 10%, like for agriculture, it's 3%. Out of that 3%, most of the allocation are for salaries.
So let's get to talk quickly about education. We need to speak about agriculture because agriculture has been a focus, and the allocation to agriculture appears to be. We're just talking about investment in agriculture, but we're not serious about, because we were talking about cutting down importation of rice. We're spending over $200 million annually, and the allocation to it is like 3%.
If you read paragraph 10, the minister said that because of COVID, there had been increment in the price of food.
Right.
So meaning imported food to Sierra Leone is now costing more than before. So what we would have done as a nation to mitigate against that is to be able to produce our own food.
More investment in agriculture.
Yes, in agriculture.
All right.
In agriculture.
Yeah.
But the investment in agriculture was reduced.
Your bite of
drastically.
Education, of course, I'm so passionate about it. And having the background from the teaching field. To be honest with you, Samuel, for the past 3 going to 4 years.
The good thing all of you have been in either in classroom or lecture rooms.
Over the past 3 to 4 years going, this government has continuously deceived the people of this nation.
How so?
We have allocated over 1/5 of our budget to education for the past 3 to 4 years now going, right? And what is the result? What are we saying? They are saying free quality school education program. I always tell them, forget about the quality. The quality there is just a word. What is important there is how reflective is that word in our education system. How can we talk about quality when teachers are still paid less than 2 million? How can we talk about quality when there are schools without adequate teaching staff? How can we talk about quality, okay, when those things, teaching and learning materials that was promised, those things that the system itself, the program itself should prioritize, have not been prioritized. Come on. You go through the budget, your allocation to education, you will see the money there for their recurrent activities, for expenditure, for instance. Other activities, donor support, what is coming in, where these monies are going. And you see the impact, the reflection on what should actually affect the quality in our education system. It's not there. You go to my village at Jagwema, you will see teachers there who are not on salary, but they are still giving what? Their best.
But would you not want to see?
You see the system?
For almost a decade,
we want
recruit teachers. Now we are recruiting teachers. Is that not a good thing?
Well, I always say this, that the good aspect of this government, who will say it, who are not afraid of saying it. My own opposition, I'm not afraid of saying it. They have tried. I give them accolade for the payment of fees that the Honorable Gevauya is boastful about. Yes, I am not boastful about it, but I will tell you that, yes, I will give them an accolade for that. I'll give them a tap for that they have tried. But there is so much more to education, to quality education, than the payment of fees. He knows that. He has a child. He has children that are going to school, if not some are in university now. He knows what I'm saying, that it goes beyond the payment of fees for your child to have quality education. You understand? The teachers are my concern. As I sit here, I have over 3 petitions that concern teachers have written to me to raise out their concern to this government, all in the bid of supporting the free quality education initiative. If only the government listens and takes this concern into consideration. They should not look at our concerns as crying them down. No. We are doing this for the benefit of our nation. The free education program that this government is talking about is not only benefiting, it's not only for SLPP children. It's for all school-going children in this country, of which we have different political parties. What has this government done with regards to teacher recruitment, teacher training? The promise that we are going to help to subsidize for teacher education at the various teacher training institutions in the provinces. That has not been done. As I sit here, I pay for over 20 teachers that are coming from my constituency.
What are you saying in essence? I mean, should there be more investments in the field?
Forget about the investment. We are not talking about more investment in education.
What are you saying?
What is there? How best do we judiciously use it? That's our concern.
And that is not being done.
22%, 20+% is a very huge sum out of 9.9 trillion. That's not a small money. You understand? It's almost 2 trillion.
Taking care of over 2 million people.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost 2 trillion, if not over, that has been allocated of our entire budget to that of education. We want to see the effects, not for people to sit in their offices and eat this money, right? Without going to the field. They promised to provide what? Allowances, motivation for teachers living in the remote areas. They talked about what? Licensing of teachers. They talked about redeployment of teachers where they are needed. As long as I'm a Sierra Leonean, it doesn't matter which part of Sierra Leone I am. I should benefit from what is meant for Sierra Leonean. It doesn't mean that because I am not privileged to be in a city, I should not have quality teachers to teach my kid in the village. This is a program of the government that we want to see. How best does it address the needs of our education in line with what they promise? That's what we want to see. We want to see the result. In the area of tertiary education, I must also say kudos to the government for coming with the 2021 University Act, which we passed recently. I believe is a move in the right direction, because I always say when we talk about education, we should not only concern about people living in big towns or in the cities, right? Education should be accessible. It should be decentralized so that everybody will have access to education.
Okay.
With the new act, we have seen the creation of 2 universities in the East, out of which Kono, as a district, benefit from one, the Kono University of Science and Technology. We hope and pray that it will come to fruition. We are very hopeful, but on the whole, we want to say in those areas that they have made strive, we'll give them a thumbs up for that.
Honorable Geva.
We are not crying them down in everything, okay? But they still need to do more. Geva will tell you about school feeding. Lastly, he will tell you about school feeding.
Let him have his
He will
right.
tell you about school buses.
Let him
But
have
I
his
will
right.
tell you,
Let him say them in
none
his
of the
voice.
schools in my constituency are benefiting from school feeding
Let
program.
him say those things in his
Just
voice.
in
Thank
1
you.
minute, for the edification of the public, I just wanted to just give a short recap as to how the economy performed in 2021.
Go ahead.
The first half of 2021, and what is expected of us, Sierra Leone, how we anticipate our economy to perform going into 2022. In paragraph 15, it is there said that the total export increased to 301 million during the first half of 2021, and that one moved, there was an increase from 194 million. So from 194 million, we benefited, let's say 120, 130 million extra, which tells you the economy is showing sufficient resilience towards the shock that we had. And even when you come to our foreign reserve, which you can find in paragraph 18, it tells you the gross foreign reserve of the Bank of Sierra Leone increased to $695 million, the equivalent of 4.6 months of import as of June 2021, from 653.8 million, which also shows that irrespective of COVID-19, this economy continues to show sufficient resilience and continue to show signs of progress. Instead of retrogressing, we are making gains with regards what we make in the form of profit as far as export is concerned, how we increase our foreign reserve. And your foreign reserve determines quite a lot about your full stability in every nation, because like now they are saying we have like 4.6 months of we have monies to be able to take care of 4.6 months of importation. So for 4.6 months, even if nothing happens, this government will be able to feed this country by bringing in foodstuff to take care of its populace. Going forward, I want the public to know that this budget that my colleagues are talking about is a
9.94 trillion.
It's a 9.94 trillion budget, and it is going to be heavily funded by domestic funds. Okay, it is going to be heavily funded by domestic funding. It says, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Member, the total revenue grant for the financial year 2020 is projected at 9.94 trillion. This includes domestic revenue of 7.64 trillion. So when you look at this budget, the gap that grants and budgetary support will be coming to fill is more like very little. Okay, so it tells you that irrespective of the difficulty that all the countries in the world are going through, we are still able to collect taxes, manage our taxes, run our economy in such a manner that we do not declare austerity. I think my colleagues here should give thumbs up to the government for being able to have an economy that maintains such a shock.
All right.
Going to
education.
Education. Granted, 20% of the budget has been allocated to education. They are saying it's not being reflective on the pupils and the like. Thankfully, he criticizes and sometimes he comments. I mean, in education, for the first time in the history of Sierra Leone, we've been able to see a Ministry of Education and the Department of Science and Technology, the DSTI department, coming up with a software that actually absorbs the expenditure of parents trying to access the results of their children. Honorable Abdukabo here, I am sure, benefited from that because there were kids in his constituency who sat to the Becker, who sat to the MPSC, who he could have spent at least 500,000 euros on to give them to go access their results. But for the technological input of the new department that he says is increasing the wage bill, because he mentioned it amongst the other departments, not looking at the positive effect that it is creating on the economy and the lives of the Sierra Leoneans. But for the establishment of that department, parents were able to save colossal sums of money that they would have expended in buying scratch cards. Going forward, like I have said, government is paying school fees for all school-going pupils. All. To a large extent, government is granting aid to university students. I mean, these are all coming from the taxpayers' monies that NRA is collecting. I mean, that in itself is having some huge impact on the livelihood of parents. So I will tell you that there is no parent in Sierra Leone whose child is going to school that is not being given on the average of at least 100,000 loans per term by this government. So if you are to say, let everybody stand in a queue and you give every parent 100,000 loans. So if I have 10 kids going to school, 100,000 multiplied by 10 for every 3 months, I'll be earning 1 million loans. Okay, I mean, we should be able to commend the government for that. Kids had to drop out of school because their parents couldn't afford school fees. What led me to go build a school in my constituency? I was passing by because of the surge, the number of kids that came to school when the government declared free quality education. The only school facility that was in existence in my section, Minor Sierra section, that was built by the SLPP government was not sufficient enough to take the surge. So people now started sitting in farm huts. So I saw that one, I saw the need, and I went and constructed a 3 classroom, which I opened on media for people to see that, I mean, it was as a result of this that I did this. So that is going to that has cut down on the number of dropouts. Going forward, those kids that would have dropped out of school, that would have been people in the street, pickpocketing, from those who work hard, they will no longer do that. In the next 10 or 15 years, these people will be well-meaning Sierra Leoneans, they will be gainfully employed nationally and internationally. So that in itself is effect. And not only paying fees for them, not only preventing them from dropping out of school, the quality aspect of it is what he merely mentioned, that we give them school-going materials, we give them books, we give them exercise books, we give them pens, we give them pencils. When they are going to see MPSC, okay, they get proper handy pencils, wherein when the computer is marking, it doesn't jump their answers because it's not properly marked. So, what I'm saying, today we will not see the positive effect of what this government is doing as far as education is concerned, because we are not standing in Kinjimi and getting people come around us, or we are not taking masquerade devils coming around us and we give them monies all over the place. But in the next 10 or 15 years, even when His Excellency will not be on the seat of power after 10 years, everybody will commend him that, but for his initiative, this set of Sierra Leoneans have acquired education.
We have about 10 minutes to manage. Let's talk about agriculture.
Of course.
With the amount of effort and sets being put into it in terms of pronouncements made by this government, the president encouraged during the state opening that every public official should be able to go into farming and all of that. And he needed to diversify the country's economy using agriculture and tourism. But in terms of the budgetary allocation to agriculture, it appears that that is far from the pronouncements being made. The seriousness that should go into it. It's far from the investments in the sector. With over $200 million every year to import rice, what is happening?
In fact, we are part of some international treaties on agriculture. The Abuja Agreement states that the budgetary allocation for agriculture per country should be 11%. Yeah, we have reduced ours to 3%, and even in that 3%, their salary is also there. You understand? So to us, we are not working towards promoting, agriculture in our country. And if I tell you, if we are serious in investing in agriculture, we'll reduce the amount of importation. And the rate of importation compared to the rate of exports is what's hiking the exchange rate. If you look at our microeconomics variable, they are all appalling. Why are they appalling? They are appalling because we depend highly on other countries for everything, even for things that we can produce here. Onions we can produce here. You understand? Even rice that we can produce here. You understand? So government had the opportunity through this budget to have ensured that as a country we invest in agriculture. You see? You can't invest all of your money on wages and salary, creating new commissions, creating new embassies, creating deputies, coming with supervisors in the Ministry of Finance, you understand? And failing to invest in agriculture. You see, some of these things we say them out of sincereness of purpose. But they would not accept. They would defend. Since he began to talk about the economy, he has never condemned government for doing what. So he is saying all what government did in the budget is correct. We are saying that some things need to be looked at closely. You cannot say because we are opposition, they shouldn't listen to us. And that is one of the problems of this government. Even when you tell them what is correct, because you are in opposition, they would be very adamant to take your corrections. You see, we need to invest in agriculture. And let me tell you, when you invest in agriculture, you do not only produce what you eat, you create employment also for people. The rate of employment is increasing skyrocketedly. So what we should do is to ensure we use agriculture to get young people involved in farming. You see? And agriculture would pay us as a nation. I could remember when the president just assumed office, he said all of his appointments are going to highly contingent on the fact that people who are going to be appointed are engaged in farming. But how are we faring on with that? To come with the policies are good, but to monitor them is the problem. It's the problem. I am happy now most MPs are going into agriculture. And we are seeing the yield that it is bringing up forth. You see? So we also want to advise government to give more, quite apart from the Abuja agreement, let us invest more in agriculture. Let us increase the budgetary allocation to agriculture. Agriculture is the only way we can be independent. Agriculture is the only way we can less our importation. Agriculture is the only way we can spend on our own people to produce what we eat instead of spending it on other farmers in other countries.
Honorable Sir Charles, the government is saying we should be able to produce and feed ourselves as a nation, and at the end of the day be at a position where we have to export what we produce after we've been able to feed ourselves. But with such investment, 3% of the budget into such a critical sector that should help us be independent and a food self-sufficient nation. What do you think of that?
We are far behind. I used to tell people that SLPP, they said the one of their priority in their campaign was what? Bread and butter. You know, of course, in the opposition then, when we were in the opposition then with them, as against the SLPP, the APC were in governance, right? There was this slogan that Tolombo no go sidoya angry boku. You understand? That was it. You know, so we expect them to make more effort in terms of alleviating the plight of our people, in addressing the issue of the bread and butter. You know, the promulgator of the bread and butter, JJ Safa, was in charge of the economy for over 2 years, right? And he could not provide the bread and butter. Now we have Dennis Vandy, a minimum rate of 2%. But when we engage these people, they told us plain blank that even if you give all this money at no interest rate, it will have little or no significant effect on the rising prices of these essential commodities. The importers were very blunt. They told us that the only way out,
costs have gone up.
that's it. They told us the only way out is for us to embark on serious agriculture. Not for us to embark on agriculture, but I mean serious agriculture. Result-oriented agriculture. You've purchased 400 machines. Yes. What is the result? That is what we want to see. And the results can only be seen when our people don't go home hungry. We want to see food on the table. We cannot do that by giving what?
Of financial mismanagement. They know, yes, right through the debates, nobody is accusing government of financial mismanagement and the like. In agriculture, I will assure the public that government is working assiduously to ensure that we get to food sufficiency, and that one is actually seen even in the e-voucher cash transfer that they inherited or from the past government, of which not much effect was being harnessed or felt. But nowadays, the e-voucher cash transfer, for which colossal sum of money has also been allocated in this budget, for it to continue in 2022, and we will all see the effect is being harnessed in our budget. Secondly, before now we used to hear of youth farm, and when people go there, all they will meet is a coconut tree or natural palm tree and growing grass. My colleague here will tell you in his chiefdom now, he himself, I mean, there is this chiefdom youth farm. In
SLPP youth farm.
The less you talk about that, the better it is. The less you talk about that.
I deliberately refuse not to talk about that.
Exactly.
Chiefdom Youth Farm initiative brought
SLPP youth
into
farm.
effect by this government. I can attest that in my constituency, I have a chiefdom and section constituency in Kisikama. The youth embarked using that fund. They embarked on chiefdom youth farming to a point that they had in the resources to actually harvest the rice. I had to go to the Ministry of Agriculture for them to lend them a machine for the harvest. So that one is actually having huge effect. So I want to assure the public, I want to assure members of the public that going forward, this government is passionate about what we eat. This government knows we are spending huge chunk of monies in bringing investment. That is why even this budget captures the onions project. We now have an onions project. They will tell you we are pumping in monies into the growing of onions and manufacturing of onions.
How reflective
We don't
is
want
that
to be
in
importing
Longi?
onions as much as we are importing rice. So let us all bear in mind that but for COVID, our economy would not have been where it is. But even with COVID, we are making gradual progress, we are making gains, and our economy is growing and is projected to grow as we
All right, this is where we end tonight's program. Many thanks to my guest, the Honorable Abdul Kabu from APC, the Honorable Sir Charles from the Coalition for Change, the Honorable Indolo Geval from the SLPP. Thank you to all of you, our viewers and our listeners who followed the show. Remember, a repeat of the show comes up on Thursday at 10 p.m. This has been AYV on Sunday. My name is Samuel Weisbangwa saying good night.